Member Alexander? Yeah. Member Gonzalez?
Here. I'm here.
Member Pfeffer?
Here.
Member Rodriguez? Secretary Amoroso?
Here.
Vice Chair Cardo?
Here.
Chair Burke?
Here.
And alternate Zaltos?
Present.
The next matter on the agenda is the approval of the minutes in the agenda from the last meeting of August 21st, 2024. Is there a motion by anyone to move for the approval of the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Nays? No? Then the minutes will be adopted. Presentation and awards and reports. Any today?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Public forum today? No? All right. Old business, none. New business. That would be the resolution number 2024-41, granting a conditional use to permit a daycare center within the General Commercial District, C2, for a property located at 3026 Holland Boulevard.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Board. Brandon Hatch, Planner 1 for the record. I would first and foremost like to thank you all for being here this evening. Resolution number 2024-41 is for the conditional application CU 24-0004, requesting a conditional use for a daycare center. To provide some background information, the subject property is in the north section of the city at 3026 Howland Boulevard. The parcel is around 1.37 acres, with the current zoning on the property being C2 General Commercial. The proposed daycare will have a maximum of 152 children enrolled, with a minimum of 12 staff members per DCF regulations. Here is an aerial of the property at 3026 Howland Boulevard. As it currently stands, the property is vacant. The applicant, Zahn Engineering, is requesting to use 3026 Howland Boulevard as a daycare center. The current land development code requires a conditional use application for daycare centers in the C2 zoning. This is one of the items currently being updated in the Land Development Code, which will allow for daycare centers to be a permitted use in commercial zones, which the Planning and Zoning Board saw and approved previously in August. The site is consistent with LDC Chapter 110, as it is currently zoned C2, which allows for daycare centers through a conditional use. The daycare center will serve the needs of the community through providing local child care services to residents. The proposed development does conform with the C2 zoning regulations and also meets all conditional use regulations. The future land use for 3026 Howland Boulevard is commercial, and within the City of Deltona future land use element, which outlines objectives, goals, and policies for the future of the city, Policy 1-7.6 does state daycare facilities shall be encouraged in employment areas, i.e. areas designated for commercial on the future land use map. This is a conceptual site plan for the project, which will go under further review once the project is submitted for a final site application. Based on decision-making criteria, staff supports the Planning and Zoning Board recommending the City Commission, Planning and Zoning Board recommend the City Commission approve resolution number 2024-41, granting a conditional use for a daycare center to be located at 3026 Howland Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, a maximum occupancy of 152 children enrolled with 12 staff has been approved. If the occupancy load proposes to exceed 152 students with 12 staff, a new conditional use application shall be submitted. 2, the daycare center must meet all applicable Florida statute requirements. 3, a business tax receipt is required. And lastly, a final site plan application is required as well. Now I'm going to be open to any questions you may have, and the applicant is also here with me as well, so after any staff questions, I'd be more than happy to invite him up if you also have questions for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? You may proceed, Mr. Piper.
Where's the nearest traffic light?
The nearest traffic light would either be towards, a little bit further past Howland towards the fire station. Past that, it would be it's either to the east or the west. No traffic lights are necessarily extremely close to the actual site itself.
No, I guess my question really is there enough room so there's no traffic jams there so that whoever's going into this area has good access?
So with the applicant might be able to speak a little bit more on this, but with it being, of course, on Howland being a Volusia County road, with the applicant speaking with Volusia County, they may end up requiring a separate turn lane. They may not, that I just don't know about the top of my head. But with the way that the site at least has been proposed, it does work to at least avoid stacking with having both the drop-off lane and the secondary lane along with adequate parking as well.
Any other questions?
My question really isn't answered in terms of dimensions.
Can I elaborate on that?
Maybe that helps.
Yeah.
You
Dr.
want-
Pfeffer, I'm kind of on your same page. While I agree, this is it's a great place on Howland because people are going in. It's one of the main arteries going in and out of the city. Great for parents. It's also looks to me, and I'm all for the center, or the daycare center, but that road right where they're at, there is no, I mean, people come flying down Howland, both directions, and at that point, and for that kind of traffic to go in, there seems to me like there's going to need to be some kind of light or turn lane or something there for people going in and out of this early in the morning, not just so much of even building up traffic, just a safety factor that people are going to have to, there's going to be a learning curve of going into that, in and out of that spot at Howland. That's just, seems like a really precarious place traffic-wise to put that.
Okay, per our land development code, anything that is built for final site plan, we will look at the methodology. We have that in your packet. Anything over 1,000 trips requires a traffic impact analysis. Based on the methodology, there's only going to be 622 weekday average trips. So they would not have to do a full TIA, but this will be looked at during the final site plan with Volusia County as well.
Yeah, I did read that.
Who approves that? Is that the Volusia County will approve?
For
The final
Howland,
plans in regards to the traffic pattern where the lights will be needed?
so it will be the city and the county together.
Just seems dangerous.
And I definitely do think the applicant could speak a little bit more as well in terms of the traffic. I know he was the professional engineer in terms of the traffic numbers that were presented that you guys have in front of you.
That's the only thing, yeah.
Dr. Piper, would you like the applicant to answer any particular questions at this time?
I'm just trying to figure out these graphs for the traffic equations and stuff, and they don't make a lot of sense.
I think having him up here may clear up a little bit, or at least may be able to explain it a little bit better than.
Before you leave, let me just ask the board if anyone has any more questions of you, of the city. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Can the applicant join us? Please give your name for the record.
Good evening, everybody. Chris Casey of Zahn Engineering, 150 South Palmetto, Daytona Beach. Brandon, thank you for the thorough review of the project. I would like to say staff did bring up concerns about the traffic during review. So during review, I did speak directly to Volusia County, and I have a couple emails regarding this. As of now, they do not anticipate requiring any improvements along Howland, though that will be decided during final site plan. They will be reviewing it more during that. As of now, this is only a conditional use, so in-depth traffic numbers and lane design has not been discussed. This is only to get approval to use it as a,
Plus, your curb cuts are designated as one is the right end and the other is the exit only, correct? You don't have two-way curb cuts. You've got two one-way curb cuts,
you are correct.
one
There-
coming in and one going out.
The east side is an entrance only, the west side is an exit only. That is correct.
And it'd be really difficult to put a turn lane in there, but it seems like they at least could put a flashing light, some signs, child care, something that's going to put people on notice. Cars are coming in and out of that, slowing down to get in, trying to get out. I mean, that's going to be, at a certain number of time in the morning, that's going to be a very busy spot.
Yeah, during peak hour, I could see how that would be a,
I mean, I don't see them reconstructing the road, or even a traffic light might be difficult, but it seems like they should put some kind of warnings and signs and something, because that's it. I've seen the traffic goes by there just, like, it's, but I think it's, it's great y'all are, we need childcare, although I think the rates need to go down, but other than that.
well, hopefully this will help with some of the supply, so.
That's expensive. I know I got a daughter with 3 kids.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have another question. Can you explain to us, maybe we can take the PowerPoint back to the concept plan. You've got 2 dead-end parking spaces. Your parking lots are dead-ending. What's preventing you from connecting them on the plan south side so that you don't have vehicles backing up because, or trying to make a 3-point turn to get out of there because they can't find a parking space?
Impervious area. So when you've reached a certain point of impervious area, the requirements will change, and I would need to buffer the north side of this site more. So there's not really enough room to pave within that limit.
Okay. So the reduction, so you're really required to have 28 parking spaces. You're providing or proposing 29. Is there not a way to eliminate one of those parking spaces while still staying and complying with code to be able to allow the connection at the bottom of the parking lot?
So we could, but then we start getting into fairly weird designs. We could take it away from the side with the 8 parking, but it doesn't really make too much sense because we would still need to include the handicapped on the east, and that gives us an odd spacing. Getting around that would be a little difficult, as well as adding a turnaround there would still include more impervious than that additional parking spot. So even if we do remove a spot, we're still adding more pavement to include a turnaround than we would by removing that. So we would still run into the impervious surface ratio.
So is the end user concerned about that?
About having turnarounds?
Is your client concerned about those parking lots dead-ending like that? Are they anticipating that's going to be an issue operationally?
It's fairly typical, and the reason that there are 2 lanes up against the school on the north side, one labeled drop-off and the other should be labeled through, but it's not, is because of that. So you'll have drop-off. Obviously, people will drop off their children in that lane, and the through lane will be where you can pass through and you can go down and park.
So do you know offhand how many of those parking spaces would be occupied with vehicles over and above the 12 educators or 12 staff members that are planning on manning the facility? How many of the 12 parking spaces will they need in addition?
There would be an additional short busing, so shorter sized buses that would need to take some of those spots. I do not know exactly how many buses would be anticipated at this moment. But yes, there would be some busing that would need to take those spots and be stored
Okay.
on site.
So more than half of the parking spaces would be occupied during normal business hours, so that would still leave roughly 50% available for people to pull in if they needed to.
That sounds like a good estimate.
Okay. Do you, that hatched area that's surrounding the sides and rear of the building, is that your proposed playground area?
That is, yes.
Is there any type of fencing that's proposed, or have you gotten to that point yet?
We have not gotten to that, but there will need to be fencing around it.
Okay. And that landscape buffer along the northern side is abutting residential, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Though that land is owned by Volusia County School Board, if I recall correct.
Behind it.
What type of buffering requirements are you required to put up there along the northern property boundary?
As of now, the shown 20-foot, and if we were to, it is 20-foot, right? Yes, so as of now, the shown 20-foot, but this gets back into the impervious surface ratio, where if we start editing the parking, I would need to increase that landscape buffer to a 30-foot, which would decrease the amount of available play area.
Okay, so I guess I was kind of headed towards plant materials and opacity. Can you speak to that as to what you're putting in there? Looks like you've got large trees.
Yeah, there will be trees. They will be planted per city standards. The landscape buffer requirements are fairly laid out well. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there are a required number of both canopy and understory trees per 100 linear feet. I don't remember what those numbers are, but they are accounted for in that drawing.
Okay, and then the shorter little dots are probably hedge or shrub materials?
That's correct, yeah, they're shrubs.
Okay. So you don't have an opacity percentage at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. That takes care of all my questions.
Need a rattlesnake around.
Dr.
What's the drainage like?
So the drainage, we did take into account the increase in impervious. Obviously, when you put a building and parking on, you're going to get more runoff. So the final design is not yet finalized, but we do have a good idea that we will need a pond shown in the top left there, as well as a pond to the west of the parking lot, and we may connect that to additional storage located underneath the parking lot as well. So they make very good subsurface technologies that can handle additional runoff. And the discharge point of both of those proposed ponds are the same discharge points as the pre-development conditions.
So you're going to have a pond like 20 feet from a daycare?
It will be a little further than that.
Will it be fenced?
It will be fenced. It will have to be fenced. If you see the hatched area up there for the play area, the diagonal lines, it will have to be fenced along those for the play areas.
So your design is to the 100-year storm?
The design is currently to the 25-year storm.
Okay. Are you anticipating that that's what Volusia County will require?
It's been a little while since I did the stormwater preliminary calculations, but if I recall correct, it was the city requirements, and typically 25 versus 100-year storm is based off of whether the system is located in an open or closed basin.
And we're in a closed basin, aren't we? Is it most of Volusia County in a closed basin?
That depends. I would need to go back and look back at it. But that was taken into account when I did the preliminary stormwater calculations.
So right now, given that there's a house that used to be there that was demolished and the entire site is pervious, so you're not really having any runoff, you don't have any discharge of stormwater right now. It's pretty much all going in the ground, so to speak, right?
A lot of it, yes. So typical regulations are that we cannot discharge in terms of flow or volume in the post-development conditions greater than the quantity of the pre-development conditions. So
you're going to retain a lot of water on site?
my hands are tied no matter what I do with it. So
Okay.
I cannot do post-development worse than pre-development.
And you're going to do exfiltration, so you're going to do storage underground as well as your on-site stormwater ponds, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do we have a motion by any member of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve application number CU 24-0004 to allow or to grant a conditional use to permit a daycare center at 3026 Highland Boulevard.
I'll second.
I will third.
Can I ask you the condition, will you consider placing the conditions which the staff has? as part of that motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, so those,
I will amend my recommendation to include staff's recommendations.
thank you.
Member Gonzalez?
Yes.
Member Pfeffer?
Yes.
Member Alexander?
Yes.
Alternate Zaltos?
Yes.
Secretary Amoroso?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cardo?
Yes.
Chair Burke?
Yes,
Motion passes.
unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda
Good luck.
is ordinance 10-2024, amending the official zoning map to rezone approximately 36.46 acres of land located along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor, south and east of the I-4 Logistic Park within the Activity Center from single-family residential, R1-A, to mixed-use plan unit development. Good evening.
Good evening. So this request is a quasi-judicial. Is Marcia here?
So then I will ask, has then poll whether there's been any ex parte communications, and why don't we start with you, Mr. Gonzalez?
None, no.
No ex parte.
Anyone else?
No.
Then,
Okay, I did. I actually just did a site visit to Rhode Island and Normandy Boulevard to check out where exactly the parcel was. So, other than that, there's no others.
There is no Rhode Island.
Well, there's a road that goes into like the Amazon, it's actually labeled Street, Rhode Island, believe it or not.
planned.
I didn't realize that until I actually made that site visit,
Yeah.
so it was interesting. I'm sorry, so you may proceed.
Sorry to mess with
Do we need to swear anybody in?
Yes, we do. We don't have someone to swear in? Well, I guess I'll do it. Anyone who's participating or testifying, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Oh, thank you. May proceed.
It's okay, she's an ex-judge.
This request is to rezone parcels from R1AA, single-family residential, to MPUD, which is mixed-use plan unit development, which is consistent with the future land use, and Section 110.319 of the Land Development Code, which is over PUDs. This will keep the activity center overlay, and the new uses will include but are not limited to light industrial, retail, restaurants, general commercial, flex space, and apartments. This is the master development plan, which shows the 5 buildings being used for light industrial and offices, 1 gas station convenience store, and 320 apartments. There will be connections to the Rhode Island extension once it's built in the future, and entrances off North Normandy Boulevard. On here, the red boxes show the parcels that we are speaking about tonight. To give you a look of where we're actually talking about, I highlighted the new Amazon building. This is going to be in between the new Amazon building as well as the residential section. These are sample designs for the buildings. Everything will be cohesive in colors and design. The apartments will have many high-end amenities like resort-style pool, car care center, pet parks, bike shops, and a 400 to 600 square foot clubhouse with grills, TVs, game rooms, and a fitness center. All rezone applications have matters of consideration that staff reviews to ensure the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code. The applicant will be paying impact fees and providing commercial tax revenue to the city. A full environmental study will be completed before any construction can commence. The policies listed are providing, just to list some of them, they're going to be providing a transitional area between industrial type uses and residential homes, providing more commercial industrial type uses versus residential, creating an employment center with walkable housing, and assisting the tax base. And based on decision-making criteria, staff supports the Planning and Zoning Board recommending the City Commission approve ordinance number 12/2024, amending the official zoning map to rezone 36.46 acres of land located along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor, south and east of I-4 Logistics Park within the Activity Center from R1AA to MPUD. And are there any questions?
Jessica, can you explain what the next steps are for the applicant after the city commission hearing, given that they receive an approval at that hearing?
So after the rezone is approved, they will have to come in for a plat. They will have to plot the land into the different sections for the buildings, and then they would come in to do a final site plan. Their plat can be a preliminary plat, so they can start putting in their sewer and roads, and then they can do a final plat, which will be splitting up the land.
Okay, so it will not come back to this board?
The final plat, no, it won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions?
What are the phases on this? Which is first, which I didn't see that. What's phase one?
I can-
Apartments or the buildings or the gas station or the,
I can let the applicant answer that.
okay, yeah. Yeah, probably more questions, a couple for the applicant.
Yeah, I think
You've done
the
it.
questions I have will probably be for the applicant as well. So unless there's any other questions from the board for the city, thank you.
That's okay.
Good evening. I'm Scott Banta, 1111 North Ronald Reagan Boulevard, Suite 101, Longwood, Florida. I'm the applicant, and we're the owners of the property. And Madam Chair and members of the commission, we're delighted to be here tonight and excited to propose this opportunity to develop this property. I'm going to give, if you'll indulge me for a couple minutes, let me give you some of the background that we have. You're all familiar, I'm sure, with the Activity Center. I won't dwell on that too much, but we're down at the bottom left corner, just east of Normandy, as you know, and we're adjacent to the new Amazon building. And as Madam Chair said, the Rhode Island has been put partially in. They're creating a 130-foot right-of-way, which would be sufficient for a 4-lane divided road going east-west. The I-4 Logistics Center donated 70 feet of right-of-way. There's an existing 30 feet for Amelia, and we're donating 30 feet of right-of-way from our northern border to allow for the 130 feet. We have a history. I've been a long-time developer and permitting entitlement person in Orlando, and we have a long history of doing public-private things. We did the 50 acres out on West Rhode Island, where the high school is in Orange City. So I was the one that we extended Sparkman, and we did some land trading with the city and to get the Rhode Island right-of-way going all the way out to the high school, et cetera. It's interesting to note the land to the east of us, because you're going to be seeing that all coming soon. If we can switch to the next picture. And you flip it 90. There it is. Can you slide it just a hair? So here you can see highlighted in yellow is our 36 acres, which will be Synergy. All the land to the east of us, we basically have about 1/6 of that whole Pineview Estates area. So there's going to be, 5 more properties coming in as people do assemblage. This is kind of interesting when you actually look at the underlying plat. We assembled 462 lots amongst 18 owners, and I've been working on this for 4 years. So with staff, we've gone through some staff changes, as you know, but a few of the folks are still here, and we've taken all of staff's considerations in. We originally started this without the entire 36 acres, and it was with a builder out of Jacksonville that wanted to do duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes as build-to-rent housing. Staff was not real in favor of that because it wasn't going to provide long-term sustainable jobs. So that company ended up deciding not to do that project along with a number of other projects that they were working on. So I picked it up myself and said, okay, what do we really want here? And in order to buffer the single family to the south of us on South Avenue. So if you drive out there, you'll see that there's a power line along our south border, and then there's South Avenue right away that separates our property from the homes on Furwood. Also, staff was very adamant that Ruth Avenue, which is a 60-foot right-of-way, did not go through from Rhode Island down to Furwood. And they really didn't want South Avenue to be accessible either. So we have about 1,250-ish feet of frontage. So we have an entrance, a main entrance for the apartments, and then we have service roads when you look at the site plan going north from the apartments to provide the second access. We're also working with the county to extend a water line that would go along the east side of the new Amazon building and then down Rhode Island that'll help open up that entire area to the east of us for futures. We will be extending Rhode Island to our east, right around the easterly border of our property. Also, within the I-4 Logistics Park, there's a planned left-hand turn lane at Rhode Island. And if you've driven out there, you notice that the right-hand turn lane for Rhode Island has already been built from about halfway up our site. We'll be extending that turn lane down and then most likely creating a turn lane going southbound into our main entrance, which is pretty much opposite the self-storage facility. It's exciting to note that the apartments are really needed in Deltona. I know that may be a question for some of you, but Deltona is significantly under apartmentized compared to everybody else around Central Florida. I had Daryl Spradley at Charles Wayne Consulting, who does a lot of apartment studies, take a look at the area, and he came up with significant deficit of apartments. Also, just a couple other points, and then I'll be quiet. This total development build-out value is somewhere in the neighborhood of $120 million. And the apartments, it should be a little bit nicer than the Integra apartments that are just north of us, right over by the Epic Theaters. The value per acre, there's 17 acres for the apartments, is going to be around $4.4 million per acre. So it'll be the highest single acreage value probably in all of Deltona. So I just thought I should put that in there. And I think we'll all look forward to seeing Rhode Island actually be built. The interchange, as you probably know, Phase 4 of the I-4 expansion has the toll lanes ending at Rhode Island. And I believe the city, Orange City, the city of DeLand, and Volusia County all would like to see that be a full interchange. So we're helping to support that by making sure that Rhode Island can go through and then over to the east side of Pinewood and then up to the racetrack. I'm here to answer any questions. I appreciate the work that your staff has done. They've done an outstanding job of working with us to get to this plan, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Mr. Alexander?
Well, I know they've been talking Rhode Island for years. Do you have any insight there that you know of a timeline that they're going to, I mean, the battle has been who's going to do what, who's going to pay for what?
It's kind of funny because I have history going back into, I was on the same agenda as the first Coles that came into the state of Florida in Orange City. And Kim Booker was our attorney back at the time. And she was Coles' attorney. So it was kind of interesting. That was, I think, 03 or 04, whenever that was back then. But but we ended up working a trade with Volusia County and to get Rhode Island all the way out to the high school. So the 130 feet. When I first drove out there, it was one lane, windy road that went up and down. It was dirt. And now it's 2 lanes, but median with 130 feet. The 130 feet is a standard for a 4-lane divided road. So when we first started with the city, we wanted to make sure that we kind of lined up well enough to get the 4 lanes worth of road to go from I-4 all the way over to either all the way to even Wolfpack Run if the city decides to take it that far. As far as I know, it's still in the early stages. The next phase that I understand, and we stay pretty much on top of this, from the I-4 going east. As you know, going west, they're going down to 27, including they've done a lot of work at Champions Gate, south of Disney. They're going, the toll lanes down to 27. On the east side, they're working on the bridge. They're going to be redoing the St. Johns River Bridge. So I think that's going to take a little while, and that'll take precedence. And then once they finish that, I would anticipate that they would accelerate the program to get the toll lanes up to Rhode Island after the bridge is done.
So we're talking years.
I'm not sure if I'm going to live to see that one.
That's a long time.
Are they expanding the width of the bridge?
Yeah.
They're going to give more lanes?
Yeah, plus they're redoing the 1792 ramp to the bridge, which is, where the big one, the first backup that starts. I would encourage you to continue to work with, your city council and DOT to promote the full interchange at Rhode Island. Because, we drive up here every day or a lot of days, and I'm sure you all do too, that, all the exits back up onto I-4 for the 3 Deltona
Oh, it's
exits.
needed.
Yep.
There's no question. But like you said, we're still talking potentially years.
Years. It'll
And
be
that's
years.
going to be, for you all, it looks like it's a pretty important road to be, but you're going to go ahead and you're going to kind of put your part in there right there on the north side of your property? Are you going to? Was that what I was understanding? You're saying you're going to?
Can you put the site plan back up?
So, I'm looking at your Exhibit F, side access driveways, driveway 4, driveway 5, off of Rhode Island.
Those will go in up front, all of those. will go in up
Yeah,
front.
well, they'll be cut in, right? But
Yeah. Can
are you
flip
going
that 90
to
degrees?
have yours? There will be access, because I'm thinking about that with these.
Okay, on our site plan, you have to envision this being turned 90 degrees. So the apartments, which are on the right-hand side right now, will be on the bottom. That's the south part. Rhode Island is on the north-south, if you will,
Yeah.
here,
North.
on the top, on the left side, but that will be flipped, so that's obviously going east-west. And Normandy is along the bottom of this picture. So the gas station would be our northwest corner. We have 2 smaller buildings of the office showroom type along Normandy.
Flex space.
Excuse me?
Flex
Space, yep. And
That's your
then
truck.
those will be, we have kind of an interesting design on that. Those are the old designs, and I don't know if you can show that back up, the pictures. The building on the right is those 2 buildings, and those are garage doors, and then the small office door bay. So it's set up to be like, let's say a tile shop could go in there, have an office area, showroom, and then have some storage in the back. We will also make sure that we have decorations and foo-foo on the Normandy side of the building so that it looks attractive from the Normandy side. We're into doing quality development.
It kind of looks like they're going to have to go through that or by that to get to the apartments at this point.
Yeah, we have the main entrance, you can see down toward the bottom right. We'll go in there, and then we have a service road that goes north all the way up to Rhode Island. So that'll provide the apartment owners and the people accessing the small buildings and the gas station will access off the service road. We also work with your staff and the fire department to make sure that service road did not connect to the truck well area between the 2 bigger buildings at the north. That'll be a breakaway fire entrance only. So the trucks will go along Rhode Island and turn at the towards the top of this picture and turn and go in that way so that we don't mix and match that traffic.
So those structures that are south of Rhode Island, which is the left-hand side, the two rectangles,
That's correct.
those are going to be same thing, flex, office, warehouse?
Yeah, but they'll be probably for larger users.
Okay.
It's those are each 68,000-foot buildings.
Okay.
Okay, with the truck well parking in between. You've probably seen that in some areas. They have it off Uppsala in Sanford, for example, where they just built some new buildings, not too far from the BJ's. And then the trucks can back up each direction into those buildings. The people parking is on the left side of the building, on the right side of the far right building of
In the
those two.
middle is where the trucks,
Yeah, and the
between
trucks will
the
go along Rhode Island, turn on that north road and come in and not access the north-south road, if you will, or the
so
west
it
road.
is anticipated that the residents of these apartments would be some of the employees of these commercial entities.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of live, work, and play areas where, like, I think Amazon started with around 500 employees, and you can correct me, but I think they're up to 1,200 now on the existing building. So we would anticipate at least some of these people living in the apartments where they could walk to work.
Actually, probably can get some hospitals from Halifax. That obviously is not a walk, but it
Right.
is.
The Halifax crossings, from what I understand, and I've met with the developers of that, they have indicated that all their apartments are going to be 55 plus. So I would anticipate, I've done a lot of apartment development in the past. I would anticipate we would have a number of hospital employees that'll live in our apartments.
Okay, I have a question about the activity center. Can you go back to the first plaque that we had, or first that had the red line around, the first one, the very first one?
Showed the entire
Nope,
activity
not that one, the
center.
entire activity center. There, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
you had a
that
better-
one up was turned around, but
Yeah, I created that because your activity center is 800 acres, and it may not be totally perfectly accurate.
is
but-
Plainview Estates in part of the activity center?
Excuse me?
Is the Pineview Estates
Yes.
part of the activity
Yeah,
center?
we are the south border, if you will, of the activity center. So the activity center, from the best of my knowledge, goes from the north end of the hospital over to that vacant land, goes down basically to the Wawa, crosses over and goes down along the racetrack on the east side of the Integra Apartments. If you drive down the road adjacent to the racetrack, that's ultimately going to be Rhode Island, the northern extension of Rhode Island. And that goes down, and you see it does a jog around and includes the Volusia County utility plant there, right by the YMCA. You're all familiar with the high school and the YMCA, of course.
Yes.
And then there's that jog, and then it goes down Wolfpack Run, down to South Avenue, and then back over to Normandy along our south border.
I didn't realize it went down that far.
That's why I put this picture together, because, when you see it aerially, it's totally different. And then when you see the next picture, you see how many little lots that are in there, and people have, been buying those since the late 60s or early 70s. And it takes a long time to put that stuff together.
Well, my question though was, it looked like nowhere, to get into those apartments, you're just going to have to pass through one of the inflex or industrial buildings.
No, we're going to go between them.
There's no, yeah, well, between them, that's what I meant, but I've just never seen it. To get to the apartment, you're going to go through an industrial area. Sometimes a lot of trucks going in and out, and I don't know. It's not that big a deal, but it's just, I've never seen that kind of a layout before.
Those spaces typically have nominal truck use, and what we have is really kind of an interesting design.
Some, depends on what goes in the big boxes, but go ahead.
Yeah, the big box stuff is all going to be like Amazon. Those buildings are all 250 and 300,000 and up.
Yeah.
So we're in the small stuff. What we have is a truck well on each end of the building, so that if a semi did pull in, they could back into the truck well, and then the tile guy, let's say, could unload the truck with his forklift, run along a sidewalk that's on the Normandy side, and go into the back of their building or their space through a deck or, again, garage door.
They're all going to be grade level, not Are they,
The three little buildings will be grade level. The two
Have to
big
be
buildings are
dock.
dock height.
they are going to have dock, I am.
But again, those buildings will be primarily box trucks, not semis. The semi will come in, let's say, unload a bunch of Toro lawnmowers, for example, let's say, and then leave. And then the box trucks will run them around.
Do you already have a gas station?
We're going to have the gas station with 16 pumps and a convenience store and a car wash.
Do you already have one online, or they?
No, sir, not yet.
That's just speculative.
We
at this
do have the apartment developer,
point. I mean, yeah,
but we're talking to
be
a
a good
number
place for one, I guess.
we're talking to a number of industrial developers right now. We do own the property.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So did I understand to hear you say correctly that you are the owner of all of these lots?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so platting isn't going to be an issue as far as,
Currently, the way we
Delayed
have it set up right now is the apartments would be one, the three little buildings, smaller buildings would be each plat, the two larger buildings a plat, the gas station a separate lot. And then we'll have a POA, a Property Owners Association, to handle all that. Our retention from the questions that you had on the last, we have three different drainage basins, and we had been working with Steve, but I think he's no longer here, so we're going to be retaining 100% on site. We have almost 40 feet elevation change. We kind of joke about it when you go on Rhode Island, if you go all the way to the end, you have to be careful that you don't get nosebleeds or ears pop.
So with those, did I understand you're going to have condo associate
There'll be a Property Owners Association to
for
handle
the
all
flex
that.
space or all of
Yes, sir.
the units?
Yeah, because we want common maintenance of the industrial part. The apartments, obviously, will take nice care.
Right, yeah, but I've been saying we need flex space really bad in this area.
So
And apartments, but
the flex space actually came mainly from Jerry Mays.
not bad.
I know he's not here,
I
but
talked to him about it a lot.
he was the one that convinced us to go ahead and do that, because there's a lot of retail coming up on 472 on the west side of I-4. You may be familiar with that, all the way up to Kentucky/Veterans. Both sides of the road's going to be not the very corner is Advent on the north side, but about halfway down where the median cut is. From there up to the corner and then wrapping the corner and going north on Veterans is all going to be retail. Same thing on the south side. And they're talking about a grocery store there.
Well, they hope, yeah.
So I worked on a big project in St. Cloud, and we were on Old Canoe Creek Road off of 192. The big boys won't go on a Normandy. They'll go on Howland, but they won't go on Normandy. So we went away from any retail there, other than the little bit of retail we're going to get within the flex space. We'll probably end up with, sub shop and those kind of things.
so once you've completed the platting into the 5 different phased, or 5 different lots that you're talking about, are you planning on retaining that, ground leasing, or are you selling those?
We will most likely sell the industrial, possibly ground lease the gas station, and we'll sell the apartment site. Chances are the development will happen simultaneously, except for maybe the gas. But the gas, the infrastructure will be done for the gas through, because there's economies to scale to doing all the clearing and grading and running those their private roads interior are all private.
So I noticed that one of your conditions is to maintain similar architectural standards throughout the entire development. So there wasn't a whole lot that talked about whether that would transfer over to signage as well. Are you contemplating the possibility of doing a master sign plan, especially for building wall signage on your industrial uses, on your commercial uses?
Yeah, we have that in the DA.
Okay.
There's a whole thing on signage in there,
Okay.
including what we're asking for perimeter signage at the northwest corner, the southeast corner, and along the Rhode Island.
And that'll be reviewed as part of site plan, final site plan? Okay, thank you.
Would that also include signages on the buildings themselves of the commercial?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And you're saying that they will develop simultaneously? You're going to pretty much The apartment builder will be building, because those are different, usually different builders, but you don't have them phased out. You're going to kind of do it all at once.
We would anticipate, based on the folks that we've talked to, the apartment guy wants to start right away, and most of the big developers that do this type of thing, he's committing right now 3 projects towards the end of next year. So roughly, he's in the $75-80 million per, on this 320 units, going to be around $80 million. So he's committing, resources to 3 projects next year, which is roughly, 240 million, whatever that number is. So once he gets going, I mean, he wants to close and then start, close on Friday and start on Monday. And the same thing with the industrial.
It's going to be tough building those first.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, going back to the drainage thing, we have about 110,000 extra yards of dirt. So one of the things that we're proposing is probably berming along the South Avenue right away to further shelter the apartments from the single family. Obviously, we can't shelter the 3rd or 4th floor, but I think a lot of this is going to be 3-story with a small amount of 4-story.
Given the regulations with apartments or buildings over 3 stories, you would think that would be advisable, because then you start getting into a lot of issues with the state regulations. So I would think you would want to build 3 stories and below.
Some of the buildings, I believe, are going to be 3 stories in my discussions with the apartment developer, and then some will be 4-story.
Okay.
Has there been any evidence, or have you done any studies on endangered species?
Yes, that's all completed.
That's in there, too.
It's all complete?
Yep.
I saw they didn't find any scrub jays.
No scrub jays. We did test, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 times for scrub jays. And then we have, we may have a couple tortoises, gopher tortoises, but we'll just relocate those.
Has your capacity been vested yet, or are you still in the process of doing that?
We have school capacity vested, transportation. We're still working with the city and Volusia County on. We've done a full traffic TIA.
Okay. And what about water and sewer?
Water and sewer is coming from the county. We have a lift station right in front of the pond, in front of Amazon, at Amazon's very southwest corner, just 400 feet north of Rhode Island. And I have 3 fire hydrants on my side of the road. We also have 2 existing stub outs for that lift station on our side in Normandy.
Is that public or private lift station?
It's public, as far as I know.
And it has capacity for what you're,
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of capacity.
Yes?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
One other quick question. The Pine View Estates, you say you own some of that land?
Well, we own 36 acres of it.
Okay, so I thought meant in addition to the site that's before us.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
There are people working on doing other villages right now, and we've been talking to some of them,
Okay.
but nothing's been firmed up at this point.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Butler?
I'm done with my assemblage part.
Okay.
I'm going on 5 years now, so I mean,
Okay, I understand.
I mean, normally there's traffic study, there's drainage, there's a lot of stuff that's presented to us that we don't see at all. I mean, it seems to me that this has the potential of waiting for a I-4 interchange that'll never happen, and we'll have 20 years of people coming into meetings complaining about traffic. I mean, it seems kind of crazy.
But such is progress, huh?
There's nothing here.
Probably will.
no, this is going to happen right away. I mean, we're not waiting for anything.
It's not going to happen if you don't get approved.
If we
He's
don't
talking
get
about the
approved, of
road,
course.
access and all that,
So do
especially with Rhode Island.
you have a specific question, additional one that he can answer? I know you.
I'm almost not prepared to vote because there's so little information in front of us. We're giving a blank check to something that we've been assured that it's going to be highest cost housing in Deltona, with people having to go between box. buildings to their
Even if we
kids.
had a traffic study, a traffic engineer, we aren't licensed professionals in traffic engineering. We're not licensed professionals in stormwater
They
either,
usually
so
present it to us.
if they presented it, would we be able to interpret it? We have
I
a
would, yeah.
TIA in the last application,
I
and
would.
and the charts and the methodology are based on the traffic engineer. So we are presented with an opportunity to allow our staff, not only Volusia County, but city staff, to do their job and ensure that all of our codes and
I mean, we don't-
whatnot are complied with.
Yeah, this got to go through a lot more
This is my
steps.
second term on here, and this is the first one I've ever seen that doesn't have a.
So the
traffic
TIA
study.
was actually sent to you guys, we just didn't print it out because it was extra pages.
So,
I see. Yeah,
I mean, it's not
That's
presented to
all right.
us.
I thought
I'm
I
glad you
saw
told
it.
us that, because I'm sitting here looking for it. I'm like, I
It is
thought
one
I
of the
saw one.
exhibits, it was emailed to you guys, and it's also available online.
Yeah, I'm looking at
It's
what you said.
120-something pages.
There is, Dr. Favre, it's all in, like she's saying. I've got it, pulled it up on my iPad. There are more studies, if you look back at what they say in the email, all of that, this one, oh my gosh, intersection query analysis, turn lane analysis, of course, there was anyway, there's, as Jessica's saying, there's a lot more on the,
And traffic is being reviewed by our traffic consultant.
I
It's
trust
also
that.
being reviewed by Volusia County as well as city staff.
What-
And it'll be continued to be reviewed even during the site plan.
My fear is I don't see the coordination between the I-4 interchanges and whatever's going to happen there and whatever traffic this place generates and how it's all going to work together. Because what we don't want to have happen is all these places go in and we're waiting for another 20 years for an intersection. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I
So-
think the issue before us is one of zoning, and from what I understand here, the activity center, there was going to have to be rezoning to meet certain needs of the activity center, including in that was the mixed-use development. And so this is pretty much, we are voting, I believe, on the concept of taking the zoning from what it was, which was residential, which we're not going to keep, not going to have a residential area in the activity center, to that of a mixed use, so that that could be consistent to what the activity center's designing. That's all our role is here. I think we're right that we have to rely upon the city, the county, to do the right thing, to make sure the proper zoning and standards are met, and making sure we have sufficient traffic, but we're always deficient. I hate to say, we're not keeping up. We have more development before our traffic comes in, and I don't know what we can do about that. That's a universal problem. But what's before us today is a question of rezoning a parcel of land that was residential now to mixed-use development, which,
Generates a lot more traffic and a lot more complications.
right?
But it's part of the activity
It's part
center.
of-
It was never going to stay residential. It was always going to become part of the activity center, and MPUD is the best type of zoning classification to assign it, because then we can determine design criteria and be very specific, and we're not as beholden to the zoning classifications for any one type of zoning classification. So MPUD allows a lot of latitude with regards to making sure that our design criteria takes into consideration all of these aspects.
And meets needs, particular needs that we may have. So
that's right. And if you go back to it online, pages 150-something to 169 are all intersection traffic volumes and information, so it's on there. But again, like she said, that's not our job here today. Traffic volumes and.
Procedurally, are there any other questions for the applicant? Because then we can make a motion and we can have a discussion on the motion.
It's on here.
So I think that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you again, and we sure appreciate it, and we look forward to a long and happy relationship with the city.
We do too. We appreciate your appearance. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, you should open it up to the public.
Oh, I'm so
Yep.
sorry. Public, is there a public discussion?
There's no one here to speak.
Nobody? Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion before the board?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Ordinance number 12-2024 to amend the official zoning map to rezone 36.46 acres of land located along the North Normandy Boulevard corridor, south and east of I-4 Logistics Park within the Activity Center from R1AA to MPUD. And the reasons why I'm recommending that we approve it is because this project is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It will provide local jobs for residents and alternative housing within the activity center. There will be some revenues through impact fees, and I believe it is to the benefit of the city.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. Will you call for a vote?
Member Gonzalez?
I vote yes.
Can you articulate the reasons?
It falls within that basically is what Andrea said. It falls within the plan for the city. I like the idea of the apartments because we do need them. And I see revenue for the city through the taxes that it will generate.
Member Pfeffer?
I vote no.
Can you give a reason why you're voting no?
I gave my reasons already.
It's fine.
Member Alexander?
I vote yes, although I think it's still a weird kind of bedfellows, industrial and apartments. Regardless, it's something that's going to be good for the city, and both of those uses are needed in the city of Deltona.
Alternate Zaltos?
I approve this plan for the reasons that have been stated earlier. I do think Deltona is in the midst of growth, and as long as the developers can keep a sharp eye on the finished product, it is important that it's a nice-looking project, a nice-looking finished project that is. It's important to have Deltona's improved image, and it really has a lot to do with what your vision is. So I have a lot of hope, and for that I approve the opportunity here for you to go forward.
Secretary Amoroso?
Yes, comprehensive plan is going to generate tax dollars. The mixed use, the live, work, play idea, you can live where you work is pretty good, and the apartments are needed for that area.
Vice Chair Cardo, you don't have to give a reason.
I vote yes.
And Chair Burke?
I vote yes. Pretty consistent with the votes for yes were. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Mixed use is definitely needed. The apartments are needed. It is a welcoming concept if we can have apartments to be within walking distance of commercial development, which in essence employment, and it brings financial contributions to the city. I mean, at this point, I think the city can use a lot of development that's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and obviously, this activity center is there for that purpose, and we hope that it gets developed.
And motion passes 6-1.
Okay. Following the agenda, are there any staff comments?
I do not have any comments.
Any staff comments? None. Board committee members' comments? Anyone have any comments from the board? Does this mean I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
I said, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So adjourned.